Well, things are looking more normal here, at least as I remember from pre-pandemic days, the times I have visited here. What a year this has been, more than a year that turned the world upside down. Of course, there are other things happening in our world and catching our attention, such as the terrible collapse of the building in Florida. Our prayers go with all of the folks affected by that. We've had notice in recent weeks of tornadoes in different parts of the country, and we get to see television coverage of that, and strangely enough, it reminds me of the pandemic. With a tornado, there can be a house which is absolutely untouched. It's perfect. Right next door, there can be another house that has been totally destroyed. And that's been kind of our experience this past year. I'm one of the fortunate ones. I hope some of you can say the same. The disease really didn't touch me. Some inconveniences, minor inconveniences, given what people do in their everyday lives oftentimes to help protect one another. But I know people who are devastated by this disease, who were touched by the virus, were hospitalized, still perhaps having effects from it. There are empty seats at tables and homes where someone has died, but I saw the staggering figure that last year nursing home deaths were up 30-some%. That really says, how devastating this pandemic could be. Well, as we're beginning to breathe a little easier about this, perhaps we're getting to the point where we'll be able to look back over this year like none other, at least in my lifetime, and begin to reflect on this experience. Perhaps some questions might come to mind. Some of the questions that have come to my mind, what is it I've been most grateful for during this unusual year? What is it I have missed the most during this unusual year? What have I learned during this unusual year? Questions that you might want to ask yourselves as well at your convenience. Since I have the microphone, I get to tell you my answers to those questions. So we go back to what am I most grateful for in this past year? I'm grateful for all those people on the front lines who helped the rest of us through this year, and in particular, people involved in healing, in health care. In hospital work, in doctor's offices, in medical research for that matter, all people in the medical health arts. I have great appreciation for what they have done, or perhaps should I say what you have done. I wouldn't be surprised if some of you are in that field. I'm very grateful for what you have done to help promote health and healing. What have I missed the most? Well, there could be a number of things on that list. I'd say touch. May sound strange for a priest. After all, it was the inappropriate and abusive touches of some of my brother priests that have scared the rest of us, so that, still to this day, a young child runs up and throws his or her arms around me with a hug. I freeze. I want to hug, and I do. I want to hug the child. The child needs a hug. I need a hug. We all need hugs. And I missed touch. I missed not just hugs, but the pat on the back and the handshakes and the sign of peace as we used to do it. We're still navigating our way on how and when and where to touch. I've missed that. Missed touch. I think a close second would be smiles. You have to pull in the mask to see the smiles. But touch is something I've missed this year. What have I learned from this unusual year? I've learned more about the value of faith and how faith sustains us in times of uncertainty. Sometimes we get that all mixed up. We think that faith equals having certitude, being certain, living in certainty. Actually, it's the opposite. It's in times of uncertainty that we most need faith. And I have a better appreciation of how faith has helped me and so many others to navigate this unusual year. Well, I have to make a confession here. How did I arrive at these particular questions out of many that could be asked? And these particular answers, which are at least true, I would have to say. It's the gospel reading. That's what inspired me today. It's about healing, touch, and faith. Healing, touch, and faith. It's one of the most powerful healing stories we have in all of the Gospels, and it's beautifully told in the Gospel of Mark we had today. Two healings entwined together in this story. We have two desperate people. The woman, 12 years she's been seeking medical relief. Consider what healthcare was in its primitive state in the time of Jesus, you know. She spent all of her money on doctors, as he said, and things just got worse, didn't get any better. She didn't have much appreciation for what was available in healthcare. She knew her only hope was what she had heard about Jesus and how he brought the divine presence of healing into people's lives. The other desperate person is Jairus, the synagogue official whose daughter is sick unto death. Two desperate people who are seeking healing and know from what they've seen and heard, Jesus is the only one who can bring that healing. Both of these healings involve touch. The woman approaches Jesus and says, she doesn't even touch him. She touches his garment. She says, if only I can touch his garment, I will be healed. And precisely what she does, and Jesus experiences this power of healing going forth from him without even knowing who has touched him. He keeps pleading, who touched me? And the woman confesses, and she's, comes forward. Touch, part of that healing, and certainly a part of the next healing when he's asked to go and lay hands on the daughter unto death by the synagogue official Jairus. And upon arriving there, with everybody having despaired of her life, he goes in and it says he took her by the hand and raised her up into fullness of life again. Touch in each of these accounts that we have today. And faith. In both cases, faith is integral to this, the openness to receive the healing that Jesus wants to bring into our lives and into our world. The woman's openness to that, and Jesus declaring to her, it's your faith that has saved you, that has healed you. And on the way to the house where the child is sick unto death, Jesus says to those who are despairing of her life, do not be afraid, just have faith. Healing, touch, faith. We're here today to encounter the same Jesus whom we hear about and read about in that gospel. He is here as truly as he was then at that time, sacramentally, a radically different way, sacramentally here among us. We are here, and I dare say, in some way as people, every one of us who could use some healing. That healing could be physical. We're free to bring that to Jesus, even though we simultaneously appreciate the healing arts of those around us, as I was mentioning before. But there are so many other ways we might need healing, the healing of forgiveness, the healing of encouragement, whatever it might happen to be in our lives at this moment, I would suspect every one of us has something that needs a healing that only the Lord can give. We come here to be touched, literally touched by the Lord as he comes to us in this marvelous sacrament. I find it, I know people have a choice in terms of communion, but I have to say I find it very beautiful when a person holds their hands out and the host is placed in the person's hand, it's like Jesus laying his hands on the person. That was they were pleading for. And when it happened, when he raised that young girl up, he took her by the hand. It's as though Jesus is taking us by the hand. He is touching us in this sacrament. And through that plea for healing, and through that experience of touch, the Lord then sends us forth from here, and sends us forth with the same words of encouragement that he spoke in our gospel today. Do not be afraid, just have faith.